is the tremendous role that fear plays in our lives. Fear is the main reason we do not pursue our goals. We do not go after the things we want or feel we need to be doing. Fear keeps us stuck, keeps us small, keeps us limited. And when I started learning the concepts that I'm going to show you tonight, it changed my life. Having a whole different perspective on fear completely changed my life. So my hope and my intention tonight in sharing this is that you'll get a couple of ahas or realizations about how fear has affected you in your past and maybe anything you're grappling with now. This will give you some insight and awareness and tools so that, as the title of the presentation is, we can make fear our friend instead of it being our enemy. So buckle up. It's gonna be a fun ride. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen here. All right, so like I said, I'm gonna go through this presentation, but I will stop periodically and check in and see how you guys are doing. And like I said, feel free to use the chat feature if any questions come up or you want clarification, or just go, oh my God, I never realized that before. Okie doke. So the name of our presentation tonight is The Magic of Fear. And again, I'm Joanne Garroway. And those initials stand for a certified master mind magic practitioner. And this is a specific certification in coaching that I received. And it's a program in how to use our mind, our body, and our spirit to get out, to transcend the blocks, the obstacles, the limiting beliefs that stop us, so we can aspire, take action, and create the things we want in life. So that's what that's all about. Okay, so there we go. Making fear your friend. That's the title. That's the actual first slide. I apologize. Making fear your friend. Okay. All right, so here's what we're going to cover tonight. We're going to discuss the origins of fear and why it exists. We're going to discuss, and this is very important, the distinction between fear and danger. We're going to talk a little bit about overt and covert fear, and how fear can teach us where and how to grow. So this is a lot of really juicy content here that we're going to cover in the next hour. Okay, you could also move, I don't know where you see the graphics, you could move this around a little bit if you need to, so you could see some of the pictures here I'm sharing. All right, so where I want to begin is to just talk about the origins of fear. We are biologically wired for fear as human beings, going back thousands and thousands and thousands of years to our ancestors, basically the cave people. We are, in essence, we are very primal beings, and our biology in certain ways hasn't evolved all that much over these thousands and thousands of years. So think about it. Back when our ancestors were living in caves, every single day was a struggle for survival, right? Every day they had to worry about whether some saber-toothed tiger was going to come at them, or a woolly mammoth was going to come at them, or a neighboring tribe would try to come and take over their cave, or they had to go hunting for food, and with very primitive tools, obviously, were constantly in danger. So our ancestors had to develop fear as a mechanism to keep them safe. Okay, that was really the primary role of fear back in the day, was you needed to have your antenna alert constantly, right, for the possibility that some wild animal or some warring tribe would come after you. So that's why fear began. That's why we started developing this mechanism. Fast forward to modern day, okay, of course, we don't have to worry about woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers, okay? However, the wiring is still the same within our bodies. And so today, when we have a fear response, it's not to some wild animal, unless, of course, you're out in Africa. But really what it is, it's still a very primal need to keep us the same, to keep us alive, and to keep us still safe. And I'm going to get into more of this as we go. So just go along for the ride. This will all make sense. So the main point here is that we developed fear for very real reasons. And today, most fear that we feel is not based on anything that will actually happen to us or can cause damage to us. All right, so just go for the ride and you'll see what I mean. So because we're biologically wired for fear, the thing that's so important to recognize and remember is fear will never disappear. It always appears when we are considering a change, trying something new, taking a chance, doing something unfamiliar. It's like this. It's not a question of if we will have fear. It's just a question of when we're going to feel it and what is it going to look like. Again, when we're anticipating something new, something unfamiliar, something different. So as you start realizing that fear is very normal and it accompanies something new in life, you can kind of not fight it as much, but see it as a normal part of life. Fear is a normal part of life. Now, here's where we get into a really critical distinction, all right? Fear versus danger. So danger occurs perhaps 2% of the time. So for instance, if you're at the beach and you're about to go in the water and you see a shark spin, your initial reaction is going to be, holy cow, you know, that represents possible death right there. I'm getting out of the water, because we sense we're in a dangerous situation, an actual dangerous situation. Same thing happens like if you are on a street at night and the lights go off. So here you are on this darkened street, you don't know who's around you, you don't know what's going on. That there's really literally potential danger in that situation. Danger is a helpful form of fear. Okay, so our body, when we see certain things or sense certain things, it will trigger this response in us to be alert to the possibility of something that could potentially harm us or even kill us. That happens maybe 2% of the time, okay? Unhelpful fear occurs 98% of the time because it's an illusion. It's a projection into the future based on our past, that something is going to be harmful, okay? It feels very powerful, but it's really just a story. So I like the example of the Wizard of Oz. If you recall in the movie, The Wizard of Oz, how Dorothy and the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion, you know, when they finally get to Oz, and they get in the room, right, with the mighty and powerful Oz, and there's all this smoke, and there's all this, you know, loud noise, and you know, it was like this overwhelming sense of dread when they were facing the powerful Oz, right? And then later on, they open a curtain and it turns out that the Wizard of Oz is this short little old man. And that's like, I think, a beautiful analogy of how we perceive many, many, many things as dangerous when they're not really dangerous. They're just triggering a very primal response in our bodies. And so we have to start distinguishing between something that's actually dangerous and something that's just triggering this fear response in us. Now, I'm using these examples sort of in the context of business, but we could throw a lot of different things here. So nothing we experience in growth, expansion, healing is dangerous, okay? So in the context of, let's say, if you're a business person, I know a lot of women, I work primarily with women, I know a lot of women who have a lot of fear around doing a Facebook Live or posting a video on social media. There's a lot of fear about being visible, about making a mistake. What will people think of me? What if something goes wrong? What if nobody shows up? Okay. All fear-based, but not dangerous. This is where this is critical. If you're in business, making an offer. So if you have a potential new customer and they're asking you, oh, how can I work with you? A lot of people are afraid to actually tell people what they charge, or again, go out there in the world and promote their business. Starting a new business or job can create a lot of fear, but it's not dangerous. Raising your prices, again, posting on social media, ending or starting a relationship, there could be fear in that. Moving, changing jobs, changing locations. These are all things in life that can trigger a fear response. And what I really want to emphasize with you here is that none of these things in and of themselves are dangerous. They're just different. They're just new. And again, when we're facing something new, uncharted territory, our body doesn't quite know the difference between, am I going to be safe doing this? Or am I going to be in potential harm's way doing this? What we have to do is start having awareness that the things that are bringing up these uncomfortable feelings of fear, in reality, are not going to hurt us. You're not going to die from doing a Facebook Live. You're not going to die if you do a Facebook Live and the technology messes up, all right? These are big distinctions to make, because what we're trying to do is kind of take fear from being this like big elephant in the room and start realizing it's not this huge big thing that we need let stop us, but we can actually put it in perspective and go, oh, here's this fear. Okay, instead of you blocking me from taking this next step, I'm going to put you over here to the side and we're going to go through this experience together. And this, as I write here on the bottom of this slide, allows us to live full out. So let's continue. You'll see exactly what I mean. So even though any change we make or contemplate, or when we step into the unknown, can trigger these physical sensations of danger, right? How do we feel? Our palms get sweaty, our heart starts racing, we get knots in our stomach, we may not be able to sleep well at night. All of these are physical manifestations of something new and unfamiliar. What I can promise you is you will not die from doing any of the things I just listed. You will not die from changing a job. You will not die from starting a business. You will not die from being visible on social media. this is what allows us to go from that red stop sign, the red stoplight, where we're like not moving forward, to a green light that says it's safe for me to go. It's safe for me to go. So is everybody with me right now? Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody's getting what I'm saying here. Yeah, okay. Now, this again, all of these are very important principles.
Joanne?
Yes.
I just wanted to let you know a few more people have come in, so I wanted to welcome.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wanted to welcome Jen and Jessica and Isaac to the room as well.
Welcome. All right. I hope they've caught the beginning of the.
They caught most, yes.
Okay, I appreciate that, Alyssa. Thank you. Okay. All right. And like I said, if you have anything you want to share, you could put it in the chat and I will check that. Okay, so I just want to make sure everybody's with me, is getting what I'm saying here. Okay, so what I want to talk about now, so we just talked about the difference between fear and danger. Very big distinction. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about overt and covert fear. And I love this topic. This literally changed my life. This topic, this slide, this realization. Okay, so overt fear is when we have those physical sensations I just mentioned, the sweaty palms, the racing heart, the shallow breathing, the knots in our stomach, the sleeplessness. Those are physical sensations that appear when we're facing something new or familiar that on the surface is quite obvious. Like for me, that would show up if I was considering skydiving. Like that is not really where I want to be. So if somebody said to me, come on, we're going skydiving, that would create these overt, very physical sensations in my body, right? Maybe driving on a dark mountainous road that you've never been on before at night, you know, and you're like, oh my God, I hope I don't get stuck here. You start getting those physical sensations, right? Maybe considering leaving a relationship. So you might be in an unhappy relationship and a part of you like knows you want to leave and this other part of you is very fearful. So you start having these physical sensations when you consider leaving the relationship. I have another example here. Public speaking. Okay, I mean, public speaking ranks first or second as one of the most fearful actions many people can take. So just the idea of speaking in public for many people creates those physical sensations in the body. And as soon as people start feeling those sensations, they're like, oh, I'm not going to do this thing. It's too uncomfortable. Okay, I see Rita here made a comment. I have fear every time I go in the ocean and I love to swim. Right, it's a real effort since Jaws. That's beautiful. I was just talking about Jaws with my college daughter. Same thing. I was living at the beach in New York the summer Jaws came out, and I used to love going in the water. And when I saw that movie, I couldn't go to the beach for a few weeks. Right? So we do actually have to, that's beautiful, because we actually have to talk to ourselves and say, really? What are the chances I'm going to be attacked by a great white shark here in Florida, right? It's an illusion, as I mentioned earlier. It's just a made-up story, but it is so powerful, these made-up stories, that they will stop us in our tracks. So that's why really understanding this is so important. So as I was saying, overt fear is like obvious fear, obvious fear. Covert fear is different tools Different sneaky, tricky tools fear uses to stop us. And I call them covert because they're not obvious in the way a shark fin is at the beach. These are what I call undercover agents. And another term for them are forms of resistance. So if you think about it, I don't have it with me, but you think of a rubber band, right? A rubber band at rest is very loose, okay? And as you start pulling the two sides of a rubber band out, which is similar to us doing something new, doing something familiar, we are going to encounter resistance. The rubber band wants to pull us back in, right? It's the same thing with our mind and our body. When we're contemplating something new, and we start getting a little bit of those physical sensations in the body, we're starting to feel a little uncomfortable, okay? That's us pulling out, expanding and growing, right? And just like a rubber band wants to pull back in, it's like wants to fight that tension, our system wants to fight that tension. And it has these very, very sneaky, tricky ways of getting us not to expand, not to change, not to do something unfamiliar. Pay attention. These are really juicy. So these are some of the forms of resistance, or again, the sneaky ways fear tricks us into not changing. Procrastination. I'm going to go through them and I'll dig in a little deeper. Confusion, distraction, lack of motivation, avoidance, perfectionism, overwhelm, and comparison. Now, as I go into these, I invite you to notice which of these, and it could be multiple, which of these shows up for you most often. All right, and I'd love to see your feedback. So let me give you an example. So procrastination. A lot of times people think procrastination, we procrastinate because we don't know how to manage our time well. Oh, I don't have enough time to do this. I'll do this tomorrow, right? Procrastination is not a time management issue. It's an emotional regulation issue. In other words, you might have a to-do list, okay? And there's certain things on the to-do list that are pretty easy for you to do, right? You're used to them. There's no big attachment to them. So you just go through your day and like, check, I did that, check, I did that. And then you come up to something on your list and it's like, starts making you feel a little uncomfortable. Let's use the example of going on social media or doing a Facebook Live or posting a video, okay? That creates a lot of uncomfortable feelings for certain people, all right? So it's on their to-do list. Today's the day I'm gonna do that Facebook Live, right? And all of a sudden, it's getting a little uncomfortable. And instead of recognizing it for what it is, which is you're just uncomfortable because it's something new, you decide, I'm just gonna put that off until next week. And what happens is it gives you temporary relief. So you put the action that's bringing up uncomfortable feelings to the side, which helps you in the moment feel better, calms you down. However, that thing is still lingering out here, okay? So think about anything in life that you keep avoiding and you keep shifting. And it could be a host of a lot of different kinds of feelings. It could even be boredom. You don't want to do this thing because it's just boring. Or it can be creating anxiety. It can make you feel stressed out. And you don't want to feel those feelings. So you just avoid doing this thing. Instead of looking at head on, understanding the feelings that are coming up, and then choosing to do it anyway. All right. So many of us are procrastinators, and this is why. Debbie says procrastination is number one for me. Yeah, right. No, it's not time management. It's emotion management. It's emotion. Confusion. I don't know what to do. I don't, you wake up, I don't know what I want to do, or I don't know what I'm going to do about this job. It's like we stay stuck in confusion, so we don't have to make a decision, because to make a decision could leave us feeling uncomfortable, and we don't want to feel uncomfortable. So we stay stuck in confusion. Distraction. This is a very big one for many people. How many of us sit down and say, okay, right now I'm going to do this? And it's a little, again, you're just feeling some feelings, and then all of a sudden your mind goes, you know what? I haven't spoken to Sue in a few weeks. I'm going to give Sue a call. Or you look outside and go, oh, it's a gorgeous day. You know what? I'm not going to do this right now. I'm going to go take a walk. I'm going to go walk the dog. You will find anything and anything to distract you. So you don't have to do the thing that is bringing up certain feelings of discomfort. That is why a term that's used a lot is chasing those shiny, bright objects, right? We chase shiny, bright objects as an avoidance of having to do other things that we really just don't want to face doing. Lack of motivation. Again, the night before you say, tomorrow I'm doing that Facebook Live, and you wake up the next day and you're like, I don't feel like it. I'm just not motivated. Oh, it's raining out, or I don't know, it's Wednesday. I'm not going to do the Facebook Live on Wednesday. I don't feel it. It's not because it's raining or anything. It's because you just are uncomfortable considering doing a Facebook Live. So you act unmotivated, okay? Avoidance, again, is similar to procrastination. Perfectionism. How many of us are perfectionists or consider ourselves perfectionists, right? Perfectionists hardly get half the stuff done they want to get done, because they say, we say, because I have that tendency, I can't do that thing until my hair is perfect. I can't do a Facebook Live until my hair is perfect. I have on makeup. I have the right outfit. I get the lighting right. It's a good time of the day. I have just the right script, on and on and on. So we create these criteria that have to line up just so in order to do whatever that thing is we want to do. And I've come to believe one of the things I teach in my coaching and my workshops is done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. If we wait in life to do things when everything is perfect, we will never get anything accomplished. Think about that, right? How many of you can see yourself in perfectionism? Shall we? You could, yeah, it's true. I mean, I think we all move through a lot of these at different times, right? So, and just know, please, it's normal. This is why I love talking about this, because this is what I'm saying. These are tricky adaptations fear has come up with to keep us the same. So we don't take a chance, we don't take a risk, we don't try something new, okay? This is like a vast majority of the population have some of these going on at any one time. Overwhelm, right? That's another one. I can't do anything because I'm so overwhelmed. An excuse. It's just an excuse to not do something, anything to get moving forward. And finally, comparison. This is a tough one, comparison. This is one reason social media is a double-edged sword. And I know many of you can agree with me on this, right? We feel good, we're ready, we're gonna do our Facebook Live, we're excited, and then we go on social media and we see somebody in our field or in somebody we know.
Lo bueno que ahorita donde hacen los
We're gonna mute ourselves. Please mute yourself if you're joining. Thank you.
Cualquier lado que te dan.
Or maybe Alyssa, you can mute everybody. So comparison is very dangerous because you start. I'll unmute myself, thank you. So comparison is very dangerous because you start comparing yourself to others. And again, we use comparison as an excuse to not have to do something that we're already maybe feeling a little uncomfortable about. So you want to do your Facebook Live, you go on social media, you see somebody else who just did a live, and you start comparing, going, oh, wow, oh, God, no, look at her, look how professional she looked. I can't compare with that. So we don't do it. So we don't do it. So I want everybody on this call to really let this in. I'm telling you, because this could change your life. When you start recognizing that all of these things I've listed here are just forms of resistance that fear uses to keep us the same, keep us stuck, keep us from moving forward. You can then use this awareness so that when they come up, you're able to recognize them and then use some of the tools I'm going to show you. Okay, really important. So if you're going to do something and you're like seeing your resistance, seeing this hesitation, go, well, that's interesting. My mind wants to distract me, but I'm not going to let it because I know it's just fear trying to keep me the same. And this is how we become. We are experts at buying into this stuff. We are experts at buying into our resistance. The mind is a beautiful tool. The key is using it for our benefit and not buying into its baloney, okay? So we're experts because what happens is we start justifying and rationalizing our behaviors. And then we come up with these beautiful, plausible sounding reasons for not doing something. And we also come up with very, very powerful and believable excuses. So I want you to take a moment and think about how you justify your behaviors, how you rationalize, and the reasons and excuses that you come up with to not do something new. Okay. I coach a lot of women, and it's so fascinating because they'll set a goal. Let's say they'll set a goal, and then I'll check in with them a week later. I'm like, well, how'd you do on your goal? Oh, I couldn't do it because my son was sick one day, and I had to take the dog to the vet, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, really? Like that thing you wanted to do, you said was very important to you. And it would really only take maybe 2 hours of your time. So even if your son was sick, even if you had to take the dog to the vet, now see, these all sound good to us. So we buy into this, right? We believe, pardon my French, we believe our own bullshit. Right? So like you're coming up with all these beautiful reasons, justifications for not doing something. And it all sounds so beautiful to you, when in reality, they're just forms of resistance because the thing you say you want to do is making you a little uncomfortable. All right, so is everybody with me? Is everybody with me? I hope. This is really good stuff, really important. All right. So again, why do we do this? Why do we buy into procrastination, distraction, avoidance?
Joanne, we have a question here. Hold on.
Okay.
We have a question.
All right. If somebody wants to unmute,
Yeah, Jessica. Jessica has a
I
question here.
can't see everybody. Okay.
Hi, Joanne.
Can you hear her? Come over here, Jessica, so she could hear you from the mic.
Here. Yeah.
Hi, Joanne. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for this workshop, by the way. This is such a wonderful and informative presentation. I was just wondering, why do you think that we have such resistance? And why is it this fear keeps us from accomplishing our goals and living our life to its fullest potential? Do you think that fear can maybe be beneficial in a way to challenge us mentally?
Oh yeah. Well,
I think that's what I think
I'm
she's giving a
I'm
preview
getting
to what
to
you're
that.
getting to, right?
I
yeah.
am getting to that. Yes. I think if you just follow along with the rest of the presentation, I will definitely be answering that. And I don't know, you might have missed the beginning. Did you miss the very beginning of the presentation?
She did miss the very beginning when you talked about the primal nature of fear. She did
Yeah.
miss that part.
Yeah, so just to reiterate really quickly, so fear is biological. We're wired for it because our ancestors thousands of years ago had to fight for survival every day. And so fear was necessary because they had to fight off wild animals, they had to fight off neighboring tribes who wanted to take over their cave. So even though we've now evolved over thousands of years, we are still biologically wired for fear. It shows up today, though, not so much because we're fighting off wild animals, but it shows up
We're
today.
fighting for recognition from our boss, so we fear our colleagues, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's as I said in one of the early slides, fear shows up now anytime we want to make a change, anytime we're facing something new or unfamiliar, because our mind and our body and our ego want to keep us the same. Our mind and our body think that anything new or unfamiliar is dangerous to us. When we know, as I said, 98% of the time, it's not dangerous. It's just new and unfamiliar. But our system, our wiring, does it, it's like a knee-jerk reaction, assuming or anticipating something new or something different is harmful. But we know that's not true. We know changing a job is not harmful. We know moving to a new place is not harmful. It's different and it may be uncomfortable, but it's not harmful. It's not dangerous. So the point of this presentation is to illuminate the difference between fear and danger, to understand it is just a biological wiring. And I'm going to give you some tools to help us move through fear in a different way so it doesn't have to stop us. Okay, so great question. Just continue the ride with me and hopefully at the end it'll all make more sense.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so if we look at this slide, so remember the resistance comes up because we want to avoid any uncomfortable feelings, anxiety, worry, overwhelm, stress, boredom, okay? We don't want to feel these feelings. So we avoid doing anything that's going to bring up these feelings. But change brings up certain feelings. So we have to make decisions about that, okay? So when we're making excuses or these beautiful justifications or these, very compelling reasons for not doing something, what we're really uncovering are deeper fears. All right, so fear is here. Fear is the base. Fear is the foundation. And resistance, so distraction, procrastination, lack of motivation, comparison, perfectionism, they all are up here. They're kind of like a smoke screen. And if we go deeper beyond those forms of resistance, we hit the bedrock, which is the actual fear. So for instance, again, let's use the example of doing a Facebook Live or posting and being more visible on social media. So if you're a perfectionist, you might be saying, well, I can't do that because like I have to get my hair cut. And when I get my hair cut, then I'll feel ready to do the Facebook Live. Or I have to have my makeup on, or I have to get a new outfit, blah, 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 okay? But what's really going on? Is it really about the haircut? Is it really about the makeup? No, there's a fear there underneath all of that. So in the case of like doing a Facebook Live or social media, it could be the fear of being vulnerable, like you are putting yourself out there in public, and that could be very vulnerable feeling. It could be the fear of rejection, like, oh, what if I put this posting out there and nobody responds? Is that going to bring up some fear of rejection on your part? Are you going to take it personally? Okay. Fear of not being good enough. Like that's where that whole comparison things comes in. When you see other people doing things that you want to do and you start comparing yourself, it diminishes us. It makes us much smaller. And it taps into this deep, deep fear of not feeling good enough or deserving or worthy. So just know that beneath the tendency to be distracted or to procrastinate is really deeper fears that are triggering those forms of resistance. Okay. Hope that's making sense. So this is why all this is going on. All right, this is why. Our mind, our thoughts are all coming from our consciousness, okay? Our subconscious, though, is where our beliefs live. And our beliefs are really what run the show. Our beliefs are what run the show. So why do people set goals and not achieve them? It's because your conscious mind will say, yeah, I want to earn 20% more this year. I'm excited, I'm going to do it. But if you have a subconscious belief that you don't deserve to be successful, or you're not good enough, or I don't know how to handle money, that is going to trump the conscious thought of wanting to do something. So let me explain. So the beliefs, again, lie deep in our subconscious where we usually aren't aware of them. Our thoughts, which come up here, are the tip of an iceberg. So picture an iceberg, right? You can only see a small percentage of an iceberg over the water, okay? That's our consciousness. The main part of an iceberg lives underwater. And that is similar to what our subconscious is doing. The subconscious is, for the most part, unseen, we're unaware, but that is running the show. So until we really understand our subconscious beliefs, sometimes it's hard to make changes in life. So these subconscious beliefs are formed starting in childhood, and then they become shaped by our life experiences. So whatever, we were like sponges as children, right? We're just these sponges. And what we heard around us, what we observed around us, the feelings we felt, especially as children, all influenced us. All influenced us. Except back then, we didn't understand what was happening, okay? And everything that we absorbed back then, and then also through our life experiences, have affected how we behave with money, how we are in relationships, how we think and care about ourselves, what we feel we deserve, what chances we take or we don't take, okay? Let me just see what the next slide is, because I want to give you an example. All right, here's an example. So our beliefs dictate what we consider safe. So for instance, if you grew up in a family where security and stability were valued, okay, maybe your parents, you know, stayed in the same job for 30 years and you know, just relied on this stability that was important to them, then you may have a belief that's not, it's not safe to be entrepreneurial because it's too risky. Or you may have a belief that, you know, you don't deserve to make a lot of money because your parents got a steady paycheck and that was all they were going to ever earn. All right. And you're thinking, maybe I'll start my own business, but you could have this underlying belief it's not safe because mom and dad never took a risk like that. Okay. Or let's say your family was very adventurous. You know, they took you climbing mountains, or swimming with sharks. So for you, that might be a very normal way of seeing life, right? But if for somebody who wasn't exposed to that as a child, let's say, those can be extremely frightening. It's interesting. I remember watching the Olympics, the Winter Olympics, and you know they show these skiers, right? Like the downhill skiers are going like 70, 80 miles an hour. And then for some of them, they showed like home movies of when they were children and their parents, and these kids were like 3, 4 years old. Their parents took them on these mountains and taught them to ski at a very young age. So for them, growing up, skiing, going very fast is kind of normal. But for those of us who did not grow up with that exposure, we may have a belief, oh, that's too dangerous. I would never do that. I would be too uncomfortable. So you see, it's our upbringing and what we were exposed to informs what we believe, and what we believe affects how we act in life. Okay. So again, I love this graphic. I love these graphics. So consider we all have what's more commonly called a comfort zone. I like to call it a zone of familiarity. All right. And the reason for that is a lot of us have this zone in our lives, right? It's like we know our job or our business, we know our marriage or our relationship, you know, everything sort of has this nice place in our life. But that doesn't mean we're happy. That doesn't mean we're fulfilled. It just means this is what we're used to. So to me, for many of us, it's actually a zone of discomfort. That's why I like the term familiar, because it's familiar, right? So, you know, people have a job, they get up every weekday, they go to the office, or they go log in on Zoom, and then they're done at 5, and then they make dinner, and then they help the kids with homework, and then you know, they watch their TV show, and it's a routine, and it's very, very familiar. Okay. But let's say you get this inspiration and you want to do something different. Like you're bored with your job, or you're not sure you want to stay in this marriage, right? So now you're considering something unfamiliar, something outside that zone of comfort. Okay. And anytime we move or consider moving from the familiar to the unfamiliar, our body, our mind is going to perceive it as a threat. And that's where the feelings of discomfort and self-doubt come to play and want to keep us in. It wants to keep us in. So here's the dilemma. Everything we ultimately want lives in the unfamiliar. All right, I'm going to let that sit for a minute. Everything we want that we don't have now and that we aspire to is in the outer zone of the unfamiliar. Okay. So in this graphic, that white circle is that zone of familiarity. This is what we're used to. This is what we've come to expect every day in our lives. That blue outer ring represents the next step in something unfamiliar. Okay, so let's say you have a business and you realize in order to market yourself more, to grow your business, you're going to have to be more visible, whether it's on social media, it's going to a networking event. You have to put yourself out there more. Okay, that's moving from the white zone of familiarity, because let's say you haven't been doing it much, to that blue zone of now I'm stepping a little bit out of my zone of comfort. Okay. Same thing. Let's say you've been in a long-term relationship and your gut feeling is, I'm not sure I want to stay in this relationship. All right. Which of course is going to bring up a lot of feelings, because if you've been in a long-term marriage, it will be unfamiliar for you to leave that situation and go out into something new. All right. Let's say you normally don't spend a lot of money on yourself, but all of a sudden you realize you want a brand new car. You haven't allowed yourself to get a brand new car in 20 years. And your car is falling apart and you're tired of putting money in your old car and you really want this brand new car, right? That represents a step out of the familiar into the unfamiliar, okay? And as I say here, any move we make or consider making out of that zone of familiarity, our system is going to do anything to try to keep us the same. So this is where we start hearing the thoughts, right? Oh, you can't spend that kind of money on that. That's ridiculous. Who do you think you are? Do you really deserve that car? Just think about what you could spend that money on other than that car. Right? All the mind chatter starts, right? Thinking of ending, and I will say I've done all of these things. I've had to do these things. I ended a 24-year marriage last year, okay? So I walk my walk. I don't just talk my talk, I walk my walk. So when I was considering leaving a 24-year marriage, believe me, a lot of fear came up. And the mind chatter starts with the, are you crazy? You haven't been on your own in decades. He's a good man. Why would you leave a good man? Even though I was unhappy, okay? So we have to know, this again, people, is so critical. Whether it's something relatively simple, like being more visible on social media, or it's ending a long-term relationship. We just have to know the feelings are going to come up, that our body, our system is going to want us to stay the same. This is normal, 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 okay? This is right now where we have to see fear as our friend and not our enemy, all right? Fear is our GPS for growth. This is really important. Fear is our GPS for growth. When we feel fear, that indicates actually the direction we need to go in. Because that is where our growth and everything we want is. I'm going to repeat that. This is really critical. When we feel fear, that is the direction we need to go in, because that is where our growth is and where everything we want is. So when I was considering leaving my marriage, and the fear came up, I had to look at the fear and I had to ask myself, am I going to let this stop me? Or am I going to do this despite the fear. The reason to do it has to be compelling. It's got to be greater than allowing yourself to buy into the uncomfortable feelings that will come up, because they will come up. Okay? We must not hate or resist our fear. That creates even more resistance. Okay? This is where I assert fear is a gift to be acknowledged, not fought, but to be acknowledged, because we need to embrace the discomfort. When we can embrace the discomfort, we can do the things we want and need to do. So we have a choice in life, see? We can either go like this with fear, like fear can be right here in front of us, blocking our progress, blocking our movement, blocking change, right? If we let it, it will stop us. Or we put down the armor, we take this fear in front of us. We, as I say, we acknowledge it. We go, yeah, I'm scared. This is scary, leaving a 24-year marriage. It is. And I'm gonna be okay. I'm not gonna die from this. So I'm gonna take you, fear, instead of letting you block, instead of me letting you block me, I'm gonna take you, and I'm gonna put you right here next to me. And we're gonna go on this journey together. Because I know in my heart and my soul, this is what I want and need to do. Okay? Big distinction. So when we understand that fear is actually our friend, fear is actually an indicator of our next steps, or where we want and need to grow. If we can accept it, we can actually welcome it, and it makes it much safer. It makes the journey much safer for us. So let me share some tips for working with fear, okay? Let me just take a sip here. Okay, point one. So when fear arises, it's signaling, again, an area of our growth. And if your goal is to expand and reach new levels in maybe your business, make more money, have more satisfaction in your relationships, feel healthier, bring more passion and joy to life, then this is the direction you need to go. Fear is pointing the way for you. And you do have a choice, okay? You don't have to do the thing. You don't have to make the change. You have to decide, though, do you want to stay comfortable and avoid the discomfort that comes with change? Or are you willing to feel what you're going to feel, move in that direction, and know you are moving closer to having everything you really want? You do have a choice. Fear is showing you the way. You have free will to go down that path or not. But if you don't go down that path, just know it's because of a very primal wiring to keep you the same. And remember, you're not going to die 98% of the time for whatever change you're contemplating. Point two, another tip for working with fear is, like I said here, walk with your fear. Move it from in front of you where it's blocking you to your side. Don't let it stop you. Just take it with you. Take it with you. All right. Very helpful, very helpful. When we're having feelings of discomfort, right? It's very important to calm ourselves down. Calm ourselves down, because we get triggered, right? And that's where the heart starts racing and the palms get sweaty. The antidote to that is calm. So one way that you can calm yourself down is take periodic breaks throughout the day. I actually set breathing alarms on my phone. You could go into your alarms, pick a few times during the day, set those alarms to go off. And when they go off, you literally will take 30 seconds and you will practice deep breathing. One technique that's really easy, it's called 4-4-4-4 breathing. 4-4-4-4. It's taking an inhale for 4 counts, holding it for 4 counts, exhaling, and then resting for 4 counts. So it goes something like this. And you do that, like do 3 or 4 rounds of that. You know, it's 4-4-4-4, 3 or 4 times, takes all of about 30 seconds. And you do that periodically throughout the day. It will slow you down. It will calm you down. Okay. Meditation. You could call it meditation. You can call it just being in a calm space, closing your eyes, and just allowing yourself to breathe for 5 minutes in the morning. Start your day off calm, okay? Our nervous system gets jacked up by fear, okay? And breathing and meditating are techniques to slow down, remind ourselves we're safe, and just to like bring the levels of anxiety, stress, worry. From here, it's like all the way down. Okay. Another tip for working with fear is uncovering and shifting any deep, disempowering beliefs that have been fueling your fears. Okay. And again, some of the most common are fear of failure, fear of success. A lot of people have an actual fear of success. They worry, what's going to happen if I'm so successful? Will I lose relationships? Will I change? Can I handle it? Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of not being good enough. There's a lot of deep fears that run us. And so it would behoove you to do some work around that, whether it's working with like a coach like myself, reading books, listening to podcasts, taking classes, okay? When you can start excavating and uncovering those deep-seated beliefs, it will make a huge impact on your life. Point 5, develop and strengthen your trust and faith muscles. The opposite of fear is faith. When we can let go and detach and have trust and faith that everything will work out for our highest good, it gives you the ability and permission to take a chance. I had a trust when I left my marriage, I would be okay. So whether you're contemplating leaving a relationship, starting a relationship, leaving a job, starting a business, moving, whatever it is you might be contemplating, when you have faith and trust that no matter what, you will be okay. You will even be in better place than you are today. It's like jumping off a cliff and knowing you have a parachute and that you are going to land safely. Think about that. You're going to land safely. It's also asking yourself, am I willing to stay in the situation I'm in now? Or Or am I willing to take a chance and try something new? Am I willing to go out of that zone of familiarity and comfort into a broader zone of unfamiliarity? Because remember, that's where everything we want exists. Because we would already have everything, right? We would already have everything if there was no more growth and expansion available to us, right? So if you don't have the money you want, if you don't have the relationship you want, if you don't have the business, the career, the passion, it's because it exists out here. And we, you, us, we have to go after it. And so that's the question you have to ask yourself, if you're willing to go after it. And I just want to conclude, and then we can certainly open it up for questions. I just want to conclude by saying my passion is supporting women, especially, to be the highest and best versions of themselves. And periodically, I do offer programs to help women reach their next level, whatever that is for them. So coming up in April, I am doing a short program. It's called Spring into Action, because we are now in spring. The first quarter of the year is almost done. Those New Year's resolutions, the goals you might have set at the beginning of the year, it's like time to evaluate where you are. Are you on track? Are you achieving the things you want to achieve? So we're going to focus on getting clarity about where you are and where you want to go this year. What may be blocking you, resistance and fear-wise, and how to get past that. How to generate momentum so that you have the energy and the focus and the passion to move forward, and how to stay motivated to get your results this year. Okay, so it's going to be really fun. It's 3 days in April, 11th, 12th, and 14th. It's only about 60 to 75 minutes per session, 3 sessions. It's going to be on Zoom. It's going to be recorded. So if you can't be there live, you'll get the recording so you can watch it at your own leisure. And if you register before or by April 1st, it's only $97. And after that, it's $129. And then there are people on this call who have done my programs. And I believe they will attest that I put a lot of really powerful transformational work into what I do. So it's definitely worth the money. You will definitely walk away with a lot of really impactful and useful tools to take you forward. So on the bottom is the link. It's springintoaction22.eventbrite.com. And that is available if you enjoyed what we did here tonight. And that is my story. So just want to see if anybody has any comments, questions, thoughts, need anything, clarification. You're muted, Alyssa.
Yeah, oh yeah, I just unmuted. Joanne, that was phenomenal. I mean, just amazing. I spectacular. I can't think of enough adjectives to describe. This was really, thank you. Thank you. I would love to hear from other people. This was amazing. Debbie.
So I've heard Joanne many times. I participated in one of her professional women's groups for a number of years until my my business picked up, thankfully. I'm just going to say that if you liked what you heard tonight, you should take one of her programs. And the other thing I wanted to comment on, which Joanne, your meetings with Master Women's Network definitely helped me. I love those golden tickets every time we met. It helped me to reassess how I was approaching my time management. You know, we always want to blame something. Couldn't possibly be me making a wrong decision. once you tackle an issue that you've dealt with for a long time and you get through it and you make that change, it gets a lot easier to change other things in your life. You know, it's no one wants to take a risk ever on anything. It's scary. You know, it is all about fear. But once you can do that one time, I can make a list of stuff in the last 10 years of my business, launching a business with no money and then celebrating my 10th year at it last June. I can make a list of stuff that scared the heck out of me. And once you get through it, it's easier. I'm going through it again right now. Joanne, you can relate. I haven't raised my prices in 3 years. April 1st. No joke. And I'm still like, ah.
What's your business, Debbie?
We work with individuals and corporate teams on teaching them how to use LinkedIn more effectively for branding and marketing. We're doing a lot of corporate coaching. I went to a conference, and every time we go to a conference and participate, we're busy for the next couple of months with corporate teams, and that's what we've been working towards. So I'm delighted the conferences are back. I just found out we're going to Nashville in October for 3 days, which will be great. That's a fun town if we have time to enjoy it. But no, Joanne's got some really great, really good strategies, a lot of knowledge about improving your personal life and your business life, and particularly if any of you have your own businesses. If you do, you know that being an entrepreneur isn't easy. You know, you got to stay motivated. So she's a good coach. I highly recommend her.
And Debbie is another amazing, phenomenal woman who comes here and teaches us at the library how to create LinkedIn profiles and work the LinkedIn network. And thank you so much, Debbie, for all that you do.
Thanks, Alyssa.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Debbie, for those very, very kind, heartfelt words. Thank you. And yeah, and Debbie is a great example of you know, pushing and being willing to take next steps, you know, from having nothing 10 years ago to starting her business, to growing, to hiring a team, to hiring several employees, to make big proposals to big companies and organizations, to be asking for more money, charging more money. And yeah, and like I said, it's not that the fear disappears, ladies. This is what you have to understand. Fear does not disappear, okay? It's always going to be there when you're thinking of whatever that next step is. The key is not letting the fear stop you. It's recognizing, oh, here we go. I want to do this thing. I'm feeling some feelings. I'm a little scared. I get it. It's normal. And because I want to do this thing, let's take this fear with me as my friend. And actually, instead of it blocking us, it could be behind us, motivating us, actually propelling us forward, because we know that's where we have to go. When fear shows up, that's bam, the direction of our growth.
Very true.
Right? Anybody else have any thoughts, comments, questions?
Jessica, Jen, we've got people here. Ladies, come over so she could see you. She wants to see. Yeah.
Please.
Liz.
Yes, how do you differentiate between fear and embarrassment?
Between fear and I'm sorry, what?
Embarrassment.
Embarrassment?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I once heard embarrassment comes from the French word embarrer, which means behind bars. So embarrassment, when we're embarrassed, it's we're judging ourselves. And underneath the judgment is a fear again. So if you, let's say you are doing public speaking and microphones start, you know, not like there's a problem with the technology, right? You can have it, you have a choice. You can either feel embarrassed as if it's something personal about you, which it isn't, Or just recognize that it was something out of your control that happened. There's no reason for you to be embarrassed. It doesn't mean anything about you. And you just do the best you can. So allowing ourselves to feel embarrassed is self-judgment, making ourselves wrong, which buys into the belief like I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy. If you go deeper, like I lead meetings, and I was doing a Zoom meeting with like 20 women on it. And all of a sudden, like my Wi-Fi started like going crazy, and I didn't take it personally, and I wasn't embarrassed. I just said, oops, something's wrong with the Wi-Fi. I literally picked up my laptop, and in the middle of a meeting, I'm running from room to room in my house trying to find a good connection. Because I didn't judge myself. I didn't make myself wrong. So does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. It's just that I admire you for walking away if it was hurting too much. But sometimes I wonder when you meet your friends and they didn't leave, and you kind of feel like they want to prescribe what you should have done. It's kind of hard to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Look, we have to be true to ourselves. I have another saying I live by, which is what anybody thinks of me is none of my business. And we don't live by should. Watch the use of the word should. Should is related to guilt and shame. So when we say I should do something or I shouldn't do it, that's guilt and shame-based thinking. A good suggestion is to substitute could or couldn't for should and shouldn't, because could and couldn't give you options. So something serious about, like, let's say ending a marriage, instead of saying I should leave my marriage or I shouldn't leave my marriage, you could say I could leave my marriage. Let me look at the pros and cons. Or I couldn't leave my marriage. Let's look at maybe why I could and why I couldn't. But you see, it's a whole different perspective if you put should in there. And excuse me, if you put could instead of should, then you're not being run by guilt or shame.
Any other last quick questions? We have about 4 minutes left. So Jen and Jessica, I think, want to ask you quick questions.
I just want to say thank you again because I always allowed fear to really run a lot of my decision making, and I never really understood or learned, how that's impacted my life. I always attached fear to more of like my dark shadow side of myself or my past trauma growing up, but I never really understood how I can better myself by placing fear or thinking fear as a different means to a better life. So the fact that you mentioned actually not having fear in front of you, but just placing it to the side and walking with it is definitely helpful. And the fact that when you mentioned actually what we want is outside of our comfort zone. I never thought of it in that manner as well, so that's very helpful. I definitely plan on taking the session in April, so I'm excited about that. I wish that there was more classes about fear taught in schools because we never learned about this. It's always a part of us, yes, but then as we get older, we start to feel ashamed of it, or we start to get these feelings of anxiety, and which leads to stress and depression and so on and so forth. But I wish that I could have known this a long time ago. But now that I understand more of this and I can envision it in a different way, I can see how helpful that can definitely be versus holding me back from accomplishing my goals. So thank you.
You're very welcome, and that's beautiful. It's beautiful awareness. And I agree, you know, this is why I love talking about it. Because like I said, when I learned this whole thing about resistance and how it shows up and fear, and that fear is really, doesn't mean danger, it doesn't mean we're gonna die. You know, keep in mind our past also doesn't have to predict our future. So what happened in the past and those traumas do not reflect on what's possible for you going forward. So I love talking about this topic because I think it is so important. And if more of us understood this, more of us would be living our dreams and doing the big things in this world that we want to be doing. So thank you.
Growing up, I always heard that fear actually stands for fictitious events appearing real, but I never really
That's
fully
very good.
grasped
I know
that.
how to apply.
Yeah, exactly, applying it. And then when you mentioned your question as well, and you also mentioned changing should to could, one thing that
Yes, that is
really helped me
beautiful.
is rather than saying I should, I start to use words like I choose to. I choose to make this decision, or I choose not to make this decision. So that's also helped me as well.
Amen.
Jen, do you have
Right,
any?
because you're not doing something because you feel guilty about, like you should do it because it's like the thing you should do because you'd feel guilty if you didn't. You're making a conscious choice if you want to do it or not.
Right, right.
Mhm.
May we have your attention, please? The
Yeah.
library will be closing
Okay.
in 30 minutes.
Uh-oh.
Please take your final selection. Check out all library materials now on the first floor.
Okay.
All printing should be
Okay, then.
completed in 15 minutes. Library hours are Monday through Thursday, 9:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. Friday and Saturday.
Anyway, I invite you guys, I'm just gonna hear, if you want, you can find my website. I'm putting it in the chat so you can just see how I spell my name. But this is actually my website. So, I mean, feel free to go to my website, learn more about me, some of the things I do. That workshop's coming up in April. It's gonna be really good, fun, impactful. And I really appreciate everybody's time being here tonight, your attention. And
Thank you so much, Joanne. We really enjoyed this. This was phenomenal. You have to come back as a speaker for me again. I have to have you again. And yes, we will talk on the side, outside of this. I think I might be signing up for your workshop as well. I thank you all for coming. This was wonderful. I did record it. I'm actually going to stop the recording now. And so I will be happy to send this recording to whoever wants it. Thank you again, and everyone have a wonderful night.
Thank you, everybody. Take good care. Be well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.